Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now the two contestants, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, are tackling many issues, be it from the economy to healthcare to different policies, the international affairs for the United States among its European partners, the African continent, also the Asian continents. Now, first off, from the healthcare to the economy, Trump and Biden stand sort of differently. Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden, they have very different issues on how to tackle America's pressing issue. The Biden campaign has released an extensive set of policy proposals, prioritizing efforts to deal with the coronavirus, the economic recession, and racial justice. The Democrat has also plans for major issues like climate, the education, healthcare, criminal justice, and immigration. Biden came into the planned debates with a larger proposed agenda than Trump. There were 3 debates. The first was really seen as not as clear, not as organized as people would have hoped, and that's why in the second and the third debate they spoke about muting the microphone of the contestant who is not speaking, because they kept interrupting each other during the first debate. They had different strategies as well during the campaigning. Probably Trump had more of his traveling across the different states. Obviously, Trump also had the famous episode of him being infected with coronavirus, and after a few days he was released from the hospital he was admitted in. Joe Biden has been quite careful about it. Even when he's touring, he has his face mask on. So it really stirred a lot of different reactions from the American public. When it comes to COVID-19, Biden's COVID-19 response plan actually advocates for increased use of federal funds to expand the testing capability and access to the PPE and to an eventual treatment and vaccine. Unlike Trump, Biden wants to use the full authority of the Defense Production Act to create additional personal protective equipment, which includes masks and face shields. Biden's plan would also increase drive-by testing twofold and calls for the creation of at-home tests and instant tests. He would additionally allocate increased federal aid to state and local governments, schools, and local businesses affected by the disease. On the other hand, Trump's campaign has not released a full COVID-19 action plan for his second term, even after the president himself contracted the coronavirus. His agenda for battling the virus centered on having a vaccine widely available by the end of the year. Health experts, including those in the federal government, say that timeline is highly unlikely. Trump, though, has promised that during his second term, he would hold China fully accountable for the spread of the virus. The White House has pledged to create 300 million doses of a vaccine by January 2021, which is in a few months' time. The plan published by the Department of Health and Human Services outlines that steps will proceed simultaneously as government-funded companies continue with their research and trials of possible vaccines. As part of this effort to accelerate the process, the government is supporting the development of possible vaccine candidates before they've demonstrated effectiveness, so that once something is proven to work, distribution could happen quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're off to a short break and we'll be right back with another call from the US. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're joined over the phone by Mr. Mohamed Gamal, the political analyst and expert as well in the American affairs from North Carolina. Mr. Gamal, can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Sif, yes.
Mr. Gamal, now talking about the elections taking place amid a second wave of the coronavirus pandemic. Now we understand the whole world is being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The US president actually was infected with COVID-19, admitted into hospital, left after a few days. So everybody's wondering and everyone is focusing on how the next president, be it Joe Biden or Donald Trump, already existing president, would tackle the COVID-19. Now, before talking about how to tackle the pandemic, how was the whole incident of President Trump being tested positive for COVID-19 had a reaction or an effect on the US public?
Well, before I say anything, I'd just like to point out that I'm independent. I'm not neither Republican nor a Democrat. But I just like to say that because I'm going to give you both sides of the coin.
Please.
As for what the people who are really against Trump are saying, which are basically most of the people who are inside the government, who are former government employees and so forth, they know that Trump knew about the pandemic. They know about coronavirus since January 28th this year. And also, actually, his national security advisor told him the most important challenge to your presidency is the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. And given this, normally, any normal president have to say the truth to the American people, because the American people, once they know the truth, they support the president. Mm-hmm. Even once they make a war, they are behind the president. If there is a pandemic like this, they should be behind the president. Well, if he did something at that time, we could have saved, according to the scientists and according to physicians, we could have saved at least 100,000 lives. Mm-hmm. United States represent about less than 4% of the world population, but its share of the coronavirus is about over 21.5%. The people who have died in numbers are really huge, 231 as of yesterday, with 231,000. So that is a significant issue and one of the most important issues that the people are talking about at the moment. Mm-hmm. And that affects also the results, and I really believe it will result the results of this election. This election also is very important because we have one candidate said he is not going to do anything against the coronavirus, but he will do the vaccine. And the vaccine is coming on Eastern time. Eastern time came and passed, and we don't have a vaccine. Most of the scientists and physicians, they don't believe we are going to have the vaccine very soon for the mass distribution for the American people. Mm-hmm. So the trust, it's missing at the moment from President Trump. And that this is not an issue. This is a very important issue. You have another issue. We have never had a president who, in advance, cast a doubt and on the legitimacy of the outcomes of election. And he refused actually to admit or to accept the results of the election. So that is from one side. The other side is, according to the most fine experts in the world, like Dr. Fauci, he said, and also the people in CDC and others, they said, well, there is a simple solution. The simple solution is you have two things. One is the mask, and the two is the social distancing. Okay, mm-hmm. The president does not encourage that, and so this is the difference. When people said, okay, we have a simple solution, we really need to open the schools, we have to open the shops, we have to open the businesses, but safely. Safely, you should really have implement what the scientists and the doctors say. Even about yesterday or the day before yesterday, President Trump said publicly that based on the demands of his supporters that he should fire Dr. Fauci. I said, okay, but after the election. That is, Dr. Fauci, by the way, he worked for 7 presidents, including Republicans and Democrats. So he is really independent. He is not belonging to any particular party, but the president said several times that he is Democrat. So that is the problem. I mean, the problem is the people, the supporters of Trump, they said he did lots of things, in foreign and domestic things, and in terms of the economy. But if you look at the economy also, that is the strongest part of it, there are some doubts of that. They have a million jobs less than Obama's time was created for the last 3 years. So I think in order to look at who's going to win, we don't know yet, but we have to watch about the battleground stage.
Well, who are the Americans actually, Mr. Gamal, who are the Americans actually willing to believe the promise? I mean, Biden's talking about increasing the number of testing worldwide, also introducing at-home testing, increasing the number of face masks and face shields. On the other hand, Trump is promising to have a vaccine ready by January 2021, also talking about having about 300 million doses available for the American population. Who are the people actually inclined to believe more?
Well, the people in a pandemic situation, for this one especially, and even the previous ones over the history, they always don't listen to the politicians. They listen to the scientists and the physicians, the doctors. And I think this should not be a political issue, in my humble opinion. It should be actually not a Republican, not a Democrat. It's American fight against the pandemic that we have. So that is so the belief and the truth should be left to the physicians and scientists. It's their this is their job. Okay, it's not the job of the politician. President Trump, nobody would like to hold him against this issue, but he has to listen to the scientists and the doctors. And Dr. Fauci is one of the best in the world.
Mr. Mohamed Gamal, the political analyst and an expert in the American affairs from North Carolina, thank you very much for joining us.